Hey you guys, it's Peter, and welcome to my channel, Peter Likes Books. And I know, it's currently Booktubeathon, but last night before Booktubeathon started, I finished the book that I was listening to on Audible, which I think is going to be like the only book I read for the month of July, which just breaks my heart, but I don't even care. August, I'm coming for you. Okay, and that was Meddling Kids, and here is the cover of it. And I will tell you that the cover is very, very important, and I'll show you why in a second. So anyway, the book is Meddling Kids by Edgar Quintero, and I am going to read the description to you right now, okay? 1990, the teen detectives, once known as the Blyton Summer Detective Club of Blyton Hills, a small mining town in the Zoinks River Valley in Oregon, are all grown up and haven't seen each other since their fateful final case in 1977. Andy, the tomboy, is 25 and on the run, wanted in at least 2 states. Carrie, one-time kid genius and buddy biologist, is bartending in New York, working on a serious drinking problem. At least she's got Tim, an excitable Weimaraner, descended from the original canine member of the team. Nate, the horror nerd, has spent the last 13 years in and out of mental health institutions and currently resides in an asylum in Arkham, Massachusetts. The only friend he still sees is Peter, the handsome jock turned movie star. The problem is, Peter's been dead for years. The time has come to uncover the source of their nightmares and return to where it all began in 1977. This time, it better not be a man in a mask. The real monsters are waiting. Okay, so the book currently is ranked at 3.59 stars out of 5. And it has 10,050 ratings. I gave it 3 stars. I would probably give it about a 72%. Okay, so here's the deal. I was so excited for this book, let me just tell you. And I will say that I just got sent an advanced reader's copy of his newest book that just came out. So I don't know, I'm going to read it because there were so many elements of his writing that I really enjoyed that I'm not sure that I'm ready to just discount him as a writer. It may have just been his first writing, if that makes sense. And it was just a very hopeful book, okay? So here, first of all, I was walking into bookstores galore, and every time I did, I would see this book with this beautiful, I mean, it is like fantastic purple and green cover on it. And it was always in the young adult section. And I was like, I haven't heard anybody review this book. I don't know anybody. I haven't heard anybody. In fact, just the other day on Twitter, I saw the first person that I knew saying that they were reading this book. So I didn't know anybody that was reading this book. And I was like, okay, what's the deal with this book? So finally, I got it, like I had some credits on Audible, and I bought it as an Audible book. So I started listening to it. Well, this book, okay, so it's about these 4 kids that were part of this detective group when they were like, I think like 12 or 13 in this small Oregon town that's like on the lake. And it was called the Blyton Summer Detective Club. There was like these 4 kids and a dog. And one of them, it has like taken his life. That's Peter, the movie star. And then there's Nate, who's in a mental hospital, who is a huge part of the narration, which is completely, it doesn't work. I mean, it does, but it doesn't, because he's an untrustworthy narrator. So because of his, you know, he's supposedly has hallucinations. So you have no idea what he's telling you, even at the very end of the book. You have no idea if what he's telling you is true, or if you want to believe it, or if you don't. I mean, you can, and it's kind of like it leaves it up to the reader's imagination of what you want to believe. And then there's Andy, who they describe as a tomboy, which she's a lesbian, and they go in there and they describe it by not using those terms, if that makes sense, which I kind of really respected the way that it was done. And then there's Carrie, who has a drinking problem. They're 25 now, okay? So this is the thing I did not expect. So they're 25. So they're like these kids that were in this detective club that were there. It's basically like Scooby-Doo's bunch. Seriously, it's like Scooby-Doo's bunch, right? That they were like solving mysteries when they were like 12 and 13, but now this Andy girl has rallied them all up together because they're going to go back and solve this case when they were 12 or 13 of like ghosts and men in masks, like Scooby-Doo, right? Except they're drinking the whole time, smoking cigarettes, cussing each other out, and talking about sex. Okay, it's bizarre. So anyway, and that was like the first thing that I really, like, it just kind of, the characters didn't work for me. Because when you read the book and you read the story, they read like, it reads like a young adult book. It reads like 12 or 13 or 14-year-olds solving a detective case, right? But the language that comes out of their mouth is that of a 25-year-old. Now, my brother-in-law Fufu is, we call him Fufu. His name is Juan Carlos. But anyway, that's Alex and I's little nickname for him. He is 25 and lives with his girlfriend in San Diego, okay? He is, set up house to some degree and is working after having graduated from college. I'm not real sure if one of his friends from when he was in the 7th grade called him up and said, do you want to go back to Indianapolis and solve a murder mystery case when we were Ghostbusters? I'm not really sure that Juan Carlos would be on the first plane home, okay? I'm just saying, like, I just don't buy it. And it just seemed like this huge, like, inside joke, like, between them. Like, okay, do you ever have those friends? And, like, let's say you have this one friend, right? And she's like, oh, I've been hanging out with these people, this, you know, Johnny, and Judy lately, and you're gonna love them, right? And you go and you hang out with them, and you're like, this is such a bore ass, because the 4 of them are talking about stuff that I have no idea what they're talking about, right? Okay, that's this book. Like, there are so many inside secrets that I seriously felt like the author was sitting there, and he was, like, typing, he was like, oh, like, it was, like, these inside secrets that, like, or jokes that, like, made no clue to the reader whatsoever, okay? So, the fact that the characters, I don't know what 25-year-olds this author hangs out with. I don't know if he's 25, I don't know anything about him. Actually, I should probably look that up, shouldn't I? But that's the first problem. The second problem is much of the story feels like an inside joke that nobody else understands, right? The third part of the story is that it becomes extremely, extremely complicated, okay? And when I mean complicated, I mean like scientific, biological issues, okay? Things, and then this isn't just like, you know, I read Truly Devious by Maureen Johnson, which I cannot wait till the sequel to that. This reminded me in some ways of Maureen Johnson's Truly Devious, okay, which is about a detective that goes to a boarding school. But when she finds clues, and she's like, she explains it to the reader, right? Like, they don't. Like, he doesn't. Like, it's a lot like, oh, the lake is going to explode like a soda can because of the CO2, and they just kind of go on. And I'm sitting there going, what are you talking about, okay? I barely made it out of biology. You need to explain this stuff to me, especially if it's a young adult book, which I don't know that the author intended it to be that way or if they just marketed it that way, if you know what I'm saying. The cover is absolutely beautiful. That's what got me there. And I really thought it was going to be like It by Stephen King or whatever. And it's kind of like, I don't know, it's Scooby-Doo on acid or something. I just... So anyway, I digress. So then it goes in, and it's literally like dun 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 dun, going to this murder mystery, and then it takes this nosedive right down into like some real dark shit, okay? And it gets into like the Necromonicon, that book to raise people from the dead, and it's, whoo, child, I was so confused about what was going on in this book. I was like, you're raising people from the dead, and there's these ghoulies, but like, you know, like in Scooby-Doo, you can't really tell like if the ghoulies are like spookies, those kind of things, if they're like real or if they're fake. Like, you can't really in the book, and then they're real, and then it's just, and then it's so confusing, okay? It is so absolutely confusing. And I wanted to like this book so much. I listened to it. I mean, I'm going to tell you a true story, okay? I think it's like 12 hours long. And about the 7-hour mark, 6-hour mark, I was like, I can't go on. I cannot do another moment of this book. Like, I need out of this book right now, right? And it really, like, I listened to it a lot of Audible. And because I didn't want to really listen to it, the Audible version, I will say this, is the narrator is great, right? And I do think that the relationship between the girl that's a lesbian and her best friend that apparently she's been in love with since she was 12 years old, which I believe that could happen. And that girl is not, I mean, I don't know how she would identify or whatever. And it's interesting that they play that part out in the book. Okay, this is the other thing too. The characters are kind of like too constructed, if that makes sense. So you have this tomboy, okay, who's really a lesbian, because they talk about it a lot in the book, that she only likes girls. And they even kind of talk a little bit about gender. Like, people say things to her about gender, like, you would rather be a boy, and things like that. Then, that's Andy. Then there's this girl, Carrie, that she really, and I'm not spoiling anything for y'all, okay? If you read this, you get it all in the first 20 pages. Then there's this girl, Carrie, that is feminine, but alcoholic, and she's been clueless all these years that this girl is in love with her, and then, but when she finds out that she's in love with her, she kind of like is into it or something, but she's not into girls, and she makes that very clear. So I don't know, and she loves her, but she doesn't. And that goes way into the book. And then you got this Nathan guy, Nate, who he has all these mental health issues, okay, that they never explain really why he has them. You assume that he has them from like this case that they solved back in the day or something. I don't know, but you don't really know why. And they take him out of this psychiatric hospital, and then he doesn't take his medication. He refuses to take his medication while he's on the run. So he's hallucinating this other character. I think that's the only reason they have the mental health issues, is so that he can hallucinate this dead character, Peter, that... Why didn't you just write the book in 1977? Have them all just solve in the very first case. That's what I would have done. I would have gone back and had them solve the very first case, flash forward, and it just be the four of them. It was confusing. It was very, very confusing. I'm still confused. There's a dog. Okay, the dog was one of my favorite characters, but the dog plays a major part in the book, and I'm telling you right now, it does not make any sense at the end. And probably my favorite character of the entire book was this townie named Joey. And, Joey, like, okay, I'm sorry, but I'm going to have to ruin this one part for you, and trust me, it's not going to ruin the book, because you're not going to really want to read it. The one part that ruined this for me, I hope I like his next book, I do, was that Joey was like this townie that they grew up with that was like a bully, but now he's like super sorry that he was a bully to them. They even used the C word in this book, okay? He calls this girl the C word in the book. I was like, did this just happen in a young adult book, right? My mother taught me you don't ever use that word. So, but anyway, they befriend him, and then at the end, he like, and there was this other guy that's like this police detective, Al, and the two of them end up like saving the town and like saving the kids and all this kind of stuff, and I'm like, did y'all watch Scooby-Doo back in the day? This is not how it worked out, okay? The people that you would never suspect, well, I mean, it's always them. The person that I suspected, as soon as they introduced this character, I was like, oh, this is who it's all about right here. I had the whole thing solved, like, probably 6 hours before the book was done, and I listened to it anyway. So anyway, if you guys read this book, I hope you like it a lot more than I did, because I just could not get into it. I couldn't get into it at all, which is... listen, I'll tell you why I gave it 3 stars and why I didn't give it 2 stars, okay? I will never give a 1 star to a book unless I just absolutely think it's absolute bullshit. I'll give 2 stars to a book if it's just like, seriously, this book doesn't work at all. The reason I gave it 3 stars was it was researched so well. I think that this Edgar Quintero is a fantastic writer. I mean, it was really an interestingly woven story. I just couldn't get into it, you know? I started it on like June 11th and I just finished it. That tells you, I mean, 8 weeks of an audiobook. I mean, if I had listened to like 10 minutes of it a day, I would have had it done in a month. Like, seriously? You know what I mean? So, he is a really good writer. He has all the things there, but I think it was just like too, like he was too excited about the story that he was going to tell. You know, there's just too much in it, and it could have been a lot simpler. I think it would have worked. So anyway, let me know what you guys think in the comment section below if you've read it. I love you, and I will see you tomorrow. Bye.